Well, I'm not so sure at all about this filming being, so close up to my face, but I don't think I've done one like this before, so I think this is bugger. Right, okay, well, I know how close up this video is, and I thought maybe it was the good way to do it. I don't know. I'm sure you'll tell me. I've been thinking today, I had a realisation about myself and about my condition, and I have to say that for quite some time now I've been really quite uncomfortable with some of the comments people make. Now, don't misunderstand me, they're not horrible comments at all, they're really very nice comments, but I didn't know how true they were, and I kept wanting to say to people, no, you've got me all wrong, that isn't true, I'm not brave, I'm not, confident, and I'm not a positive thinker at all. And well, I've come to realise that of course I am all of those things. I just didn't realise, and I don't know, I just sort of thought to myself, particularly having seen the Paralympics and, people running or dashing 100 metres when they've got no legs, to me those people are brave, those people don't let life get them down. Don't equate me with that. But I don't know how it came about, but I suddenly realised that, hang on a minute, because I say to people, well, I only do what I choose to do. That doesn't make me different or special, or I think you know what I'm trying to say. I didn't sort of like the pat on the back, I suppose, but it dawned on me today that where this attitude comes in is the fact that I choose to do things knowing what the consequence is going to be. Like, for instance, I went to this dog show yesterday, and I know that if I do a dog show that the following day is not going to be a good day for me physically. And that, I suppose, is where the attitude that people are talking about comes in. The attitude that my doctor says that she wishes all her patients had. Because I choose not to curl up and die, basically. I have no idea if what I do is making the progression of my disease faster or whether it's slowing it down. But even if it was making it faster, it wouldn't stop me. I'm sorry, but I'm just not going to sit on my armchair and do nothing, because it might hurt, or it might kill me, or whatever. I can't. And I mean, this morning I have to say that the pain was just, it was horrible. And I haven't been that close to crying for a long time. The last time I did was actually in 2004, when I first came to realise, what my doctors had told me about what was wrong with me. And my reaction to it was to drive to Oslo. I'd always wanted to go to Oslo, so I did. I got in the car and I went. And that was a very exciting trip, I have to say. I went through all sorts of things, like a blizzard. I drove from Norway back down to Malmo in Sweden in a blizzard, stopping off at Sten and Ingela Lofgren's house on the way. They're Lhasa Apso breeders in Sweden. Sten has since died, He only died recently. But anyway, all that is beside the point. I drove through this blizzard. And anyway, that's enough about that, because I shall get sidetracked. The whole point to it is, I did that trip. When I got back, I was in agony for a week after it. And I did cry quite a bit that week. Because it was... But that was back in the days when all I was taking was paracetamol. I can't believe that I ever refused painkillers. I mean, how daft was that? I mean, this morning, even after 40 milligrams of morphine on top of my usual drugs, I still... Oh, it took 60 milligrams before I could function and get out of bed. Now, I don't mean, you know, every 5 minutes. I gave it an hour each time, because 20 milligrams is my dose, every 4 hours. You know, but after an hour it hadn't done anything, so I took another 20 and so forth, which is allowable. But it makes me forgetful. And I haven't got a clue what this video is about now. Yes, it's about being a hero. Well, I'm not. But I do understand what people mean now. See, I still tend to look at myself in the way that my father looked at me, as being useless and a wimp and too soft. You know, such a sissy. But, and I push myself and I push myself. But I'm glad that I do, because I have fun. I pay for it, but we all do. There's no such thing as a free lunch. Do you know, I never used to know what that saying meant, and it used to really fucking piss me off, because I used to think that people would say it and they didn't know what they meant by it either. But actually, no, there isn't. Even if somebody gives you a free lunch, you still have to do something. Like, you have to go through the actions of eating it. You have to say something to the person that gives it to you. I mean, even if you don't, there's a consequence of that. Do you see what I mean? Maybe you don't. Maybe I didn't explain that very well. I don't know. But, anyhow. So, and of course, I do get annoyed at these people. I mean, I know people who have less wrong with them, and they won't, oh no, I can't do that, that would hurt my back. Oh no, I can't do that, that would make me so tired. Oh no, I can't do this for that reason. Oh no, I can't. And I think, oh, bollocks. That's not me. You know, I didn't fight all my life to have a life, to give into it now. Yes, I was pretty pissed off, and I can be pretty pissed off. I mean, don't get me wrong, there are days I feel sorry for myself. I think, you know, this is not fair. You know, I'm an abuse survivor. This shouldn't have happened. I've fought so long to get my head together, and now my body's fucked. You know, that's not good. But what's the point of complaining? I also could have been dead. I know plenty of people who are. You know, they didn't make it. That's why we're called survivors. However, and I will make this point, I do get rather annoyed at these people who refuse to use the word victim, because I was a victim. And for the other abuse survivors that are listening to me, because I know that you do, you're a victim too. There's nothing shameful about being a victim, and that is what I don't like about this insistence on using the word survivor as if victim is some shameful thing. It isn't. If you're a victim, it's not your fault. So how can there be any shame attached? You know, if you're raped or molested or beaten, you're a victim of that person, and you were powerless at that time. That doesn't mean you can't gain power later, because I think that's what it's about actually. It's really the denial that we're powerless. But we are powerless. We're powerless over most everything, you know. You know, we might kid ourselves that we're powerful, but we're not. We have no fucking clue what's going to happen next. None at all. And I know that people like to believe things that are definite, you know, that are simple, that are black and white, because to face the abyss, oh dear, I'm going to get terribly profound now, is really truly frightening, and that abyss is, I do not know. That in itself is terrifying for so many people. I do not know. And you find that, you ask people questions, what is the meaning of life? And they'll give you an answer. Instead of being honest and saying, I don't know. I ain't got a fucking clue. No. They have to give you a reason. Because it's too frightening not to have one. Far too frightening. I don't know seems to be the most frightening thing for people. And we have to accept. I accept that I do not know. I also accept that that causes me a fair deal of anxiety. Of course it does, because I'm a human being. I got rather a shock at the solicitors on Friday because she asked if I wanted to be cremated or buried. Well, she asked it of the pair of us. And John immediately said, oh, cremated, please. And I looked at him I was really very taken aback. I thought, I've asked you this question and you've never answered me. And here we are, you get asked this by a solicitor and straight away, bang, there's your answer. But that surprised me. But what really, really surprised me was myself. I couldn't give an answer. And I wouldn't give an answer. Because I don't like the idea of being buried and I don't like the idea of being burned. And I know it's completely illogical. I know I shall be dead. And I know I shall really be dead. Because a nurse explained to me that you can't basically go to be buried or to be cremated without being dead. I don't mean because it's illegal to burn or bury people alive. That's not what I mean. I mean because when you've been declared dead, they embalm you. They remove your blood or something or other like that in hospital. So even if you weren't dead, you are dead before you're buried or cremated. But I still can't give an answer. What I would really like is to do, I think it's the Zarathustrans or Parsis or something like that. And what they do is they put the dead body on top of a huge wooden pylon thing and let the birds eat the body. Now, I think that's a really good idea. I like that idea. I like the idea of being out in the open. Fire absolutely terrifies me. I mean, it truly does. It's just, I can't even think about it. And I'm far too claustrophobic to accept being buried. Although I did discuss with her the idea of having a green burial, if that's possible, i.e. being buried in something biodegradable so that the worms and everything could eat me and I could become fertiliser. I wouldn't mind that. But just please make sure I'm dead. I've absolutely no idea where I started from in this or where I'm going. In case you're wondering why I keep looking down, I'm knitting, as I'm always doing when I'm talking. See, there it is. I'm knitting my sock. Tubeless sock. Tubeless sock. Not a tubeless sock, a footless sock. No. Well, sort of. I haven't shaped a foot. It's a tube sock. The yarn is one of my own, one that I dyed. And again, it hasn't pulled, and I wish it would. But look, you can see that it hasn't. I suppose that's quite nice. The colours are certainly nice. But, I'd like blobs of colour. Anyhow, so, going back to, Colin's so brave. He's such a hero. Yes, it makes me feel very uncomfortable. But I sort of do see what people mean. Of course they don't use those exact words, or so some people do. But it's down to choice. Like I said, I didn't think about it until today. I don't know why it suddenly dawned on me today and not before. Why I've always been just embarrassed by it and thinking, oh no, I don't. This is sort of like unearned praise. You know, I'm being given credit for something that Carly Simon sings a song, In a Small Moment it's called, about somebody accepting credit for something that they didn't do. And that's what it makes me feel like. But I realised today that I've got no need to feel like that at all, because it's true. Yes, I do things knowing that I'm going to suffer for it. But as I said, I'm the one that benefits from that. I know I risk being embarrassed in public. And by that I mean like falling in the ring at dog shows, which I did at Scotland. And I could have yesterday. I came rather close to it more than once. And my straight line and triangle was much more, you know, sort of wavy, a bit like a drunk person. And that I find really bothersome. I do not like the idea that people might think I'm drunk. But it's only my body, it's not my mind. I can drive perfectly well. And legally, I might add, before anybody gets into that one. There's nothing in my medication that makes driving not legal. Because my reactions and everything are good. It's only being on my feet that's a problem. And yesterday I did worry because, you know, getting down from... I did manage not to kneel on the ground. I wasn't going to kneel on the ground because it was all wet and sodden. But I still had to crouch down to the dog. And the getting back up was a problem, particularly for my left leg. I don't know why my left leg yesterday, but it was my left leg. And it threatened not to work at all. And so I did my walk, my fast walk with the dog, with a limp. And as I said, then when I had to do my triangle and my up and down thing, it was rather wavy. I couldn't do it straight. I can't do anything straight, really. So, yes, I risk embarrassment, and I don't risk pain. It's a definite. You know, I know it's going to happen. But the point is, I got home, and I felt, well, you know, I was cold and I was tired. But otherwise, you know, okay. And I really thought that was going to be the worst of it over, but no, it wasn't. I mean, today was the... Anyway, I'm repeating myself. I don't need to do that. But I think what we have to understand is that, as unfair as it is, if we truly want to come to terms with our pasts and what's happened to us, we have to accept that we cannot do that on an intellectual level. We can only do it at a gut feeling level. And it will happen if we're earnestly searching for it, if we're earnestly really trying to become our better selves, you know, and overcoming the fear and the self-hatred and the self-doubt and all those things that a lack of love when we're young causes. I say a lack of love, you know, because, well, that's what it amounts to. Even though some of us were, you know, it was more than that. It was active abuse. But I'm more than conscious of the fact that there are people who listen to me or who read me that didn't experience violence or sexual abuse or molestation, you know, but they just had a general lack of love and a constant criticism, or, you know, there's a word, and I'm sorry, I can't think what it is, but you can be just as spiritually trampled by what's not done for you when you're a child, let alone what is done to you. Do you see what I mean? I don't want people to minimise what they're going through. However, the whole point that I'm trying to say is, you know, listen to this. I go to the dog show and I know that it's going to cause pain, but I do it anyway because I want what the dog show gives me. And this is basically how you have to approach your healing. You want the healing, you have to accept there's going to be pain. I believe there is no healing without pain. There were times when I truly believed that I was healed because I read something and I understood it and I thought that was it. No, that wasn't it at all. You have to feel it. There's no way around it. And you can hold those feelings in for many, many years. It's true, we do. But tears uncried remain as tears uncried, and they have to be cried, or they ruin your life. It's as simple as that. You carry around all that shit, and you need to get it out. You need to let the light in, and the only way you can let the light in is by clearing all the rubbish out. And you can't. It's not enough to mentally understand. This is really the hardest thing to explain. The final moment of glory for me, the final moment of release, of a true healing, was the most painful day of my life. It still shocks me that I survived that day, mentally and physically. Seriously, I really thought I was going to die. And yet, the glory of it was, what caused that pain was the knowing, the real knowing, finally, that I hadn't been abused because of who I was. I'd been abused because of who my abusers were. It had nothing to do with me whatsoever. It only had to do with them. And that released me. But I can't really... Well, I could sort of give more detail about it, but I can't right now. This has gone on too long already. And but what I'm trying to explain is, although that was very good, of course it was very good, it's produced me now. I mean, the way I dress and everything now never used to happen before then. You know, I wasn't me then. You know, when I think back in my memory, there's the Colin before then and there's the Colin after then. Two completely different men. But the Colin now was the Colin that was always there but buried. There's no joy without pain. And if you think that you can heal without pain, you can't. And I know that if you're anything like me, we spend so much of our life trying to avoid pain until we finally realise that we have to go through it. We can't skirt around it. We can't jump over it. We can't get under it. All these things that we do to avoid it just makes it far, far worse. Anyway, on that note, I guess I'm going to shut up. I find it amazing that anybody bothers to listen for 20 minutes, let alone 23 and a half, which is how long this has gone on for. But I never really know what I'm going to talk about when I start. And that's what I ended up talking about. I hope you found it helpful. And, well, good wishes to you. Bye.